Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be with you here in London Film Festival. Thanks a lot for taking the time. Huge congratulations on this beautiful movie. For people who haven't seen it yet, how do you describe what they can expect when they watch The Ice Tower?
Well, I'm expecting they will feel the cold, but also let's say, somehow a bit the magic of a fairy tale and the magic of cinema, because it's also a film about cinema.
Obviously, when we think of fairy tales, it's, impossible not to associate it with Disney, even, the likes of Frozen. But in your hands, we're sort of getting more maybe to the original concept of a fairy tale, which is much more about our fears and our desires, sacrifice and obsession. So maybe you can tell us about your interest in fairy tales in general, but also finding kind of the darker undercurrents in them.
Yeah, I was always fascinated by Andersen's tales because they are fairy tales, but they are also very dark, very cruel, very complex, about emotions, about characters, about indeed a lot of fears and desires and the combination of them both. And I think it's really the role of fairy tales to be, because they are set in a sort of imaginary world, to be able to take you very deep into sometimes dark corners and to go through your fears, also to go through the dark woods toward maybe the light, or maybe not. But I think it's interesting because it's very liberating working on fairy tales, because it's like to have a step outside of reality, but you can also mix them with real world, and that's what I thought is very interesting.
And when you sort of took on the Snow Queen, the story of the Snow Queen, how did that sort of morph and translate into the film we see today? I guess it's not sort of a linear narrative that we're following. It's something much more kind of poetic, much more dreamlike. So how did you take the original themes and concept and put it into this film?
I thought that I couldn't make an adaptation in just a fantasy film. I thought it was interesting to mix it with reality, and I thought at some point, and it was also inspired by the story itself, that there could be a film within the film, so a different layer, a different face in a way. So I could have something more artificial that could be the fantasy, the fairy tale really, and then it could be a reflection of what would happen emotionally to the characters in the real world. So there is a combination of these two aspects. And then also there is the protagonist, the main character, is a young teenager who has dreams and expectations and doesn't know so much about the world, and she projects her own imagination on the film which is being made. So there is three levels in a way, and it came quite naturally while we were writing the script, and then we tried to work even more on that at the editing.
And of course, you sort of came of age in the era that our protagonist is coming of age. Do you think also some of that is infused with your own sort of creativity being awoken in the world of cinema? And what kind of cinema did you be influenced by, which we can see remnants of it in your style?
Well, first of all, of course, I had thought the film as a coming of age of this young girl, this teenager, discovering in a way the world of adults, but mainly she was looking for some place where she could escape from reality somehow, or to confront her fate or a past story in a way. And then I realized how much the film was about cinema, and how much the girl was maybe, let's say, someone who could, a cinephile, no? Or even maybe a filmmaker, who knows at the end, because she can project her own imagination, her own world over the worlds of others. And I realized somehow that she could be a double of myself, a reflection of myself in a way. And when I was a teenager, when I began to go by myself to see movies, it was really a place of freedom and excitement and great emotions, and to somehow discovering the world through films before leaving really things myself. So I guess the film is about that. And Jeanne, the protagonist, played by Clara Pachini, is slightly a bit myself, I guess.
Yeah. And I believe she had only done, is it a short film before being in this? What did you see in her that could be so beautiful on screen, but also have that really sort of magical interiority? Because, you know, for a lot of the film, we're watching her, and, you know, there's not so much dialogue. So really, there needed to be so much being expressed without much to work with, let's say.
Yes, when she came to the casting process, I thought what was so interesting about her was this combination of, she was so of softness, of grace. She has such a graceful face. And also, she has strength very much. Maybe her silhouette, the way of walking was more complex than just a nice, graceful girl. She had strength, and I thought she could even be violent, even if we don't really use that in the film. And so the combination of both aspects was very interesting because it gave more complexity to the character. Also, I thought she had an amazing look, eyes, and as you said, I realized that we were going very much to look at her looking at things. So she really had this strong look, and you could see that she's very quiet but not shy, and I think she has a real inner life, Clara, which certainly is different from the one from Jeanne. But you could imagine her thinking a lot of things, and yeah, so that was immediately, she was so amazing and interesting. The funny thing is we saw her maybe even the first or second day of casting. So of course we had to see many other girls before. Of course it's Clara. Who else?
And on the sort of opposite end of the spectrum, you know, an actress who's a real veteran of the screen, but there's such an electric dynamic between the two of them. And I know you'd worked with Marion in Innocence in your debut. So what was it like coming back together with her and perhaps working on this duality of her character? Because of the film within the film, she's both Christina and she's the Snow Queen. And often there's a lot of ambiguity about her character. You know, when is she being genuine? And there's sort of both something alluring, but also sort of terrifying about her.
Yes, absolutely. She had to be like both a phantasmagoric figure. We don't like the Snow Queen, so we can't know anything about the Snow Queen apart from her presence somehow. And then Christina, the actress who plays the Snow Queen, and I was a bit scared of making Christina too much like a caricature of the cliche of a diva, and we talk mainly about the fact that this woman was suffering, and then we didn't talk so much about the character herself. I think what probably was Marion has her own idea about the character. I have my own about the past story, let's say, the backstory. But we didn't talk about that. I think it was better to keep a part of mystery and a part of mystery, I suppose. And I think Marion talked once about that she liked characters when there is a part when there is still a mystery. And I think it was a costume that helps her also being two different person. Of course, the costume of a Snow Queen was like an armor somehow, and something very rigid and very both beautiful and like totally like a prison somehow. Appearance as Christina was different, so probably that also helps her to define the way to perform these two characters.
And the way it looks is just absolutely stunning. Maybe we can talk about how you use light and shadow, but also the sound design, you know, and as much as using silence as dialogue or music.
Yeah, we worked a lot about taking out things, using less and less, and that was the process of a post-production, for instance, was, especially with the soundtrack, was to take out things, to keep only some sounds. So that probably creates sort of strangeness, even if it's without really realizing why. And we wanted the soundtrack to be very reflection of the emotion of the characters, to be very mental in a way, but with using very minimalist elements. And there is a bit of music, there is a bit of dialogue, but not so much. And the silence, I think, can bring a lot of tension somehow. So at least I hope.
And it does feel like we're under a spell, for the duration of this movie. What would you like audiences to go out the cinema thinking, feeling?
I would like them to feel what was the emotional journey of the main character of Jeanne. I think it's about her emotional journey, the film, very much. And we hope they will feel a bit the mystery, the attraction, the beauty, but also the fear that she's experiencing. So yeah, it's very much about emotions rather than meaning, really.
Yeah, and I was there for the premiere in Berlin. What has it meant to you to have your premiere there, but also bringing it now here to London?
In Berlin, that was my first real experience to have a film there. It's a very exciting film festival because also there is a real audience. That means people who pay for their seats and not like just professional. And we had a very, very warm reception, and even if it was a cold film, and even there was snow that day, which was very rare still now in Berlin. So that was like a magical, perfect, a perfect screening somehow. And and here in London I have been many times, and also I love the audience. They are very, very, they love cinema. They are very interested in different type of films. The Q&A are very interesting here, and of course it's such an important festival. So I'm very happy to be back to this festival.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Huge congratulations on
Thank
the film.
you.
Really enjoy the rest of the time here in London. Merci.
Thanks.